Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut, and this is Aces53. Today we have Joe Ingram. He is also not only just the Joker, he is the guest host today because Brian is somewhere on a plane somewhere over the United States.
That he is.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what he says he is, but we really don't know where he is because we don't keep track of him. You know, the worst thing that happens to me sometimes is you turn off all the do not disturb me and you still get those, notifications. So, and the noise that comes through. Hold on, I'm changing yeah, look at that. Only me on that page. I tell you, I don't know how to fix that. Anyway, so today we're on Tuesday, we were talking about scripts, and I thought, and because I think scripts are and I'm talking about sales scripts, not, stuff to get, prescriptions,
Right.
but sales scripts are so important, especially to understand what you're trying to get across to people so you can stay on task, stay on what you're trying to do. But I actually replied to a post on Facebook about, somebody was asking, what should the salesperson do? And I said, they should write a script, practice a script, and then make the call. And then I had somebody else call me out and say that I disagree totally with that. I don't think scripts work. Well, then you haven't used them properly. That's my intent. Well, how do you feel, Joe, about that?
No, again, so does an experienced person need a script? Yes or no? Right? Because I know a lot of the bad habits come up, but I do believe a script will help anybody at any point in their career. And I think the biggest part of why somebody would throw out there and go, oh, you know what, scripts suck and they don't do it ever. And I'm like, I know, but I'm sure you're also the person that hasn't developed any kind of consistency in your sales, right? Because that's one of the biggest things that will allow you, if you have a script, the script provides consistency and confidence for an individual. You don't have to read it word for word, but you do in the beginning until you understand everything. Because I'm a big proponent of scripts. And I know that, and I think I saw this on your topic on Tuesday too, is that, you know what? I practiced the script, I practiced, and now it's how I talk. Mm-hmm. So it's not me going, oh no, this is me reading. It's literally how I talk. And the better words that I got from the script are now in my standard vocabulary, right? Which I think is what benefits greatly for your sales reps.
And I think it's so important. Yeah. Here supporting from afar. That was Brian, by the way. I don't know if you can see right here. Anyway, yeah, he's probably hungover again.
Right.
Single life.
Don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I have his location on. He shares it with me now. So see if he's moving quickly. Yeah.
But back to your point, for me, when I first started in the sales industry, especially mortgage industry, I had a script. And basically, I have developed it over 20 years to include every objection I've ever gotten through the process so that I hit it along the way. I mean, if you go back to Zig Ziglar, that's what he says to do. And he was my person when I first got in the business to learn how to do sales. And he says, whatever objection you receive, put that in your script so you don't have that objection again. You can move right through.
Yeah. Squash it before it ever becomes an issue. Yeah. Right. I agree. Well, here's one of the things I think that most people do wrong with scripts. Okay. With scripts, we can sit down and write it out. If you wrote your own script, the best part about it, Ed, was that you wrote it in your own voice.
Right.
Okay. And so somebody else grabbing it, it's not going to be their voice. But I know the quickest and fastest way to success is to give somebody a script to practice to get used to what they're doing. So a brand new person, yeah, bring them in, sit them down. But everybody believes this. And now I'm automotive more than I am real estate when it comes to the training. And so I get people all the time that go, I don't want to just sit down and I don't want to sound like a robot. I don't want to sound like, and I go, I know, but isn't practicing now with us sounding like a robot better than picking up the phone and sound like an idiot with a prospect? And then you realize that you just cost yourself a deal, and we'll never know what that deal could have been revenue wise because you screwed it up.
Right.
And so I teach psychology of the script, and I teach it to them so that hopefully one day all the words will get into their head and it'll be how they actually speak and actually talk over the phone or how they deal with people on text and things back and forth. But to me, the answer is, you need to have a baseline, and you need to get it so perfected that you can now feel confident enough. And most of it, when you're talking script, it's phone sales, right? It's picking up the phone and going after what you're going for. And so,
Yes and no. I mean, because I do a lot by the phone, but even in person, yes, it's going to be a little different, but you want to know what you're talking about.
yeah.
If you go on stage to do a speech, you wrote a speech out. It's a script. Do you
Oh, yeah.
stay on script the whole time? Probably not. Someone, might ask a question, take you off for a second and come back. But yeah, when I first started, yes, it was phone. So you are correct on that.
Yeah, and that's one of the best examples you can look at is say, okay, so anybody who has to speak in front of a group goes and writes out what they want to talk about. Okay, because why? What I find is if you grab somebody, even if it's a senior person, and you assign them a new actual product they have to sell and go through, right? For one, their voicemails suck when they leave a voicemail because there is no voicemail script. And that's one of the first things I give my clients is like, please leave these voicemails. These get return phone calls, and then not just call somebody and go, I have great news. Yeah. And sound like every other cheesy salesperson out there.
All right. Before you move on, what do you
Yeah.
tell people to leave on a voicemail?
So depending on what the product is or what it is we're looking for. So I always take the approach of being more of a customer focused question answerer. So I will tell them that, you know what, I know you've probably been scouring the internet looking for information, but I'm part of XYZ companies, right? Customer information center. So please give me a call back and I'll help you get through all of the stuff that is, challenging you in this process. So they call me not knowing I'm in the sales department. They think of me as just that person. And in sales, I have to know my competition. I have to know what I'm up against. So I could literally sit down and do side by side with you, but I can get at least them to call and go, he's not trying to sell me something. I will once I defeat the other person's product. But
Right. Well, so in our industry, alone is alone. It's all
right.
about, trusting that person to go through the process with them. And it's really about knowledge, understanding. And the more knowledge you have and the more you can explain certain things and give them education, the more you win in our side. Is that the
And
same? Go ahead.
yeah, one of the things I always tell people, so a lot of what I do is it's literally requests come in and we have no rapport, nothing, because we've never talked to anybody. So one of the things I like to do is I say, call when you get the message, go, hi, Ed, it's Joe. I have a note here to give you a call about this product, right? And what pops in your head? This, not I got an internet request that came through in my email saying you were interested. So when I change the picture in their head, right, it's going to help with rapport. It's going to help, and they're going to go, wow, did he got a note. So someone stuck a note on his desk
Right.
to give me a call, but they see it as a much more informal and a much more already embraced kind of context.
My only issue is because I know some people will call me and like, hey, we talked last week regarding, and I hate that. We
Yeah.
never, because I'm the guy, we never spoke. Don't
Oh
lie to
yeah,
me.
I'm not gonna go bold face lie to you
Yeah,
and go, yeah, you taught me this once before. No, I didn't. Shut up.
Yeah. So don't waste my time.
Right.
But again, I want to go back. Scripts are so important so that you understand, especially when you're brand new. You need to practice it, and eventually, it'll be where you don't have to. Your script is what you say because you
Right.
practice it so many times. And I think a lot of people in my industry has been in our industry for a while. Go, I don't use scripts. Okay, well, I start my same presentation the way I do it every time is the same way all the way through. Had an old business partner, and we shared the actual office so the employees, when they came in with an issue, they could tell us once, right, and be done with it
Right.
instead of like with this person and then this person. And he's like, dude, every time you pick up the phone, you say the same thing all the way through the transaction. I'm like, yeah, that makes sure I cover everything and do not miss anything.
Yeah. And so, like, for example, I ran a large working for a software company, and I was actually hired at that software company. Hello, Lynn Serrano. And so I went in and I had a team of people, and I had a team of people. I sat down, I started doing phone calls, and I was like, okay, this is going to get me the best result. And I wrote a script and I gave it to everybody and said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to call into the customer base. You're going to hit up. And all of a sudden sales just started jumping. And everybody goes, wow, this is so easy. It's like they're not even trying to fight me. And I'm like, yeah, I get you. And then I had one rep who was just, a beast at everything she's ever done in her life. And now she's a new hire coming into this one. She walked up and she goes, this doesn't sound like me and I can't do it. And she's waving the paper with me. And I was like, okay. So I talked to her for about a half an hour. Then I went back and wrote what I wanted to be said in her voice. And when I wrote it in her voice and gave it back to her, I still got everything I wanted done. I still had everything ready to get across the message. And then she killed it and became the top rep all the way through because it was written in her voice. Right. But as long as you don't lose the structure and you don't lose the overall, what's the intent of the script, then I think it's definitely going to help somebody along the way.
Right. I just think, people say sales is a 4-letter word and scripts should be another, but it's wrong. We need them just to make sure we cover everything and make sure, because in my industry, right, you mess up a sale, that could be 10 grand, right? Yeah. That's a lot of money when you lose a sale, and you need to make sure that doesn't happen, because right now we don't have this low lying anymore. You have you got to talk to 100 people to get 10 transactions now, where before you talk to 10 people and get 10 transactions. Right. It's a totally different world. And that's why Brian and I are doing this, because we think a lot of people are so used to the easy way that they don't really understand sales and how to be like, I want to go back to one of the words you said, consistent with their volume. And our industry, people are so inconsistent. It's, because they haven't done what they need to do. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. Again, if you stop and understand that I need something to help me cheat to win, right? I need that's something that's going to cut my learning curve. I need that to say, I need to make sure that I don't miss any single opportunity because it's so difficult. In the automotive space, we're chasing on a good day, 20% close. Right? That's right. If you're like, woo, firing on everything. So it's an 80% failure rate. And so if you're winging it on every single call, then in any single call, email, things like that, right? I'm not a huge fan of templates, but I know I'd rather have less typos go out to a prospect than you go through. And again, what is a template? It's literally a script that's done in email. Yeah.
In your voice, it's already there. You can get it done in seconds. It's already there. Change a couple things and send it out. I have so many templates. I have so many other things because of time, right? We have to talk to so many people. And I want to go back to what you said to help you cheat or whatever. It's not helping you cheat. It's helping you to get that unique ability over somebody else so you win. That's what that does.
Yeah. And one of the things Mark said in the comments was that scripts evolve into guides. So when I go in, mine actually say call guide, because so many people go, I don't do scripts. And I'm like, great, then do the guide, but do it word for word until you can actually explain to me everything we're doing. Because if you understand what is it, so I always break it up into like 6 components to a phone call and lay it out. And I'm like, if you can explain to me what you're doing in all 6 of these boxes to get you through a call to end up with that actual completion at the end, if you can explain it to me, then then I understand that what's there. And words can change, but the intent stays the same, right? And I tell people, because we've all heard that if you're actually using face-to-face, words are about 7% of the communication and the understanding from party to party. But when you pick up the phone, you lose body language. Right. And people forget that. Scripts help you to make up for that 55% of body language communication that you just lost. It becomes 80-20. It's 80% tone inflection and 20% words. And so you believe you're so good being a body language seller face-to-face that when you pick up the telephone, you don't need a script that's going to elevate your words, even though it's almost 300% more important. that you have it, right?
Right.
And then look and say, great, go to email or text, and it's 100% the words you're using. And it's like,
Right.
no, I'll still do this, right? I tell people all the time, if you look at somebody talking on the phone and they're like, yeah, so when you get off, you're going to go turn, right? And they do that. And I'm like, dude, they don't know which direction you just pointed your hand
Right.
to. You're a body language seller in the wrong medium. And so to me, the script will help you to stay concise. It'll help you to get through the key components that need to happen in what you're doing. And so to me, it's going to save you time.
I totally agree. So for me, I sold by the phone for 18 years, and I worked for Blue, Thousand Oaks. I think it's Blue Shield or is it Blue Cross? That company. I think it's Blue Shield. Anyway, I worked for them for about 6 months inside their sales department for small businesses. Picked up the phone, and I mean, day in and day out, that's all I did. I finally learned the tones and inflections and the stresses in people's voices to really understand how to sell by the phone. So I do have a unique ability. I guess my voice, I didn't realize until I got on radio that it was so deep until I started listening to myself. But that, there's a lot of things that we can do, but it's so important.
I completely understand.
Yeah, exactly. But knowing the tone when you're on the phone, it's that tones and inflections, the stress points in their voice or what you said and how you say it is so important. And I think people don't really realize that, and we're losing that talent, right? Because
well, again, too, right? If you have a script, you can teach someone the words.
Right.
Does it make sense for the person to go, hi, my name's Joe, calling from Sales Genius, and no, it's not that. It's about practice, repetition of the script, so know. Because, okay, so do you remember you're in elementary school, you're sitting there and the teacher goes, okay, so let's assign chapters to read out loud, right? Or let's assign paragraphs. And they're like, okay, you're going to do paragraph 1, 2, 3, Ed, you're going to get 4, Joe, you're on 5, blah, blah, blah. I didn't listen to anybody else that whole time for the first 4 chapters because I was chapter 5. I instead went down and read that page. I was like, oh my goodness, if this is my chapter, oh my good. And I read it, so I knew where to put tone and inflection so it didn't sound like I was reading. And if every phone call is different, if every face-to-face is going to be completely different, then you lose the opportunity to interject correctly. And so I want to control everything I can control in a sales environment so that I can actually plug the right emphasis on the right word, the right tone and inflection what's there. And I want to use the correct words so that it doesn't. I tell everybody, all you have to do, your words are great if you can control the picture that's created in the prospect's head.
Right.
Okay. And if you're out there using words that give you really bad pictures and you think it's just funny to say it, it's like, no, you're wrong. So,
right. And how I learned this even more recently is I've been on radio for the past 5 years, and you have to paint a picture while you're talking about something and explain certain things while you're on there. And you have a script. I don't care what anybody, I have a script for my radio, but I'm not going, okay, we're on the way back, we're going to be talking, you have to know it. Like I have a co-host on my Real Estate Jerky. He's still at that point where he still somewhat reads it because you can tell. It's like, okay, if you're going to read it, you got to speed it up so people don't know you're reading it. And yes, if you make a mistake, I don't care. Just keep going. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. It's going to be done. Just get moving through it. Don't try to read it, like phone communication versus face-to-face logical experience. No, phone communication versus face-to-face logic. You have to you can't read. And there's so many people I get voicemails from. They're like, this is Johnny with so-and-so. And I was wondering if you want to use us. No.
No. Yeah. And again, sometimes the person on the other end of the phone actually talks that way naturally. And they're like, wow, I found my soulmate. Right. But that's so not what you're going to experience most of the time. People typically need some boost. And again, I want to shorten the learning cycle. I want to shorten the path to success. And I want to make sure that I'm not leaving things out that need to be put in place, because today, how many times now, again, I live and die. I look like Brad Pitt over the phone. That's why I prefer the phone. Right. And so looking at it, I would much rather not be held liable for something that somebody was winging it and the person believes they're now owed something else, or there could be a free month, and then they're going to go, I heard a free month,
Right.
right, on this software deal or on anything you're dealing with. And I'm like, no, I don't need that to be put out there where I'm liable for it, because phone calls are recorded, emails and texts are recorded, that you're sitting there. And it's like, how many times are we doing Zoom or online meetings? Right. It's recorded, it's out there, and they're gonna go, nope, you said this. And so
yeah. And it's so important to know what you're going to say so you don't make that mistake. All right, so we've had a few comments. I just want to throw them on the screen. You saw that one, you saw that one, right? So that's what you said. You can't move a prospect in your direction with a monotone.
Mark just copies what I say.
Well, don't we all? We all copy somebody. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody today copies from somebody. There isn't any new music. It's always a different music, just changed a little bit, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah. So. But all right, so we've been talking about how important they are and how to make sure you use them and why you should use them. What's the best way to create one?
So,
because you do this for a living.
Right? Yeah, I do. And so, what I do typically, if I go in with a client, I'll sit down. Literally, I just talked to a guy 2 days ago that says, I have an AI model that can do this. And I'm like, so it has to listen to phone calls, see what works, what doesn't work, specific to the area and the product. And he's like, yeah, it's just called machine learning. I'm like, yeah, the same stuff we do. Right. And it's like, because I've had that. Like, again, a lot of my success came within automotive, but then I realized that it's the same thing no matter what. Right. So my specialty is taking a virtual prospect and getting them to actually purchase something in the building, the brick and mortar. And then I found out that's what dentists have to do, chiropractors have to do, right? And then all of a sudden I got contacted from a moving company. And I was like, okay. And the guy goes, hey, you know what you need to do? I want you to create the scripting and the stuff that goes through. I said, okay, so let's talk about what happens on a phone call from you. If you're the master producer that's here, let's talk about what happens. And then I will integrate personality typing. I'll integrate the NLP stuff that's going to help you to go through so that you don't build it. I always say on the road to the sale, right? We tend to believe no matter what, that we're not the ones digging the potholes. And so for me sitting outside, I'd rather speed up the road to the sale by filling in all the potholes that you go put in. But you believe the pothole you dug that costs you deals is you believing that it's your way of doing something. And I'm like, I want to appeal to everybody if I can, but you want to just appeal to the people that like the way you talk. And I'd rather not be that person. I'd rather, what's the point of matching and mirroring if you're going to say you match and mirror me because I'm so great? Yeah, it's not there.
Yeah, I'm a vet. You don't want to match and mirror me. So
yeah, I just
very direct. I'm very direct.
Your ego, right?
Yeah.
Ego is edging gross out of your deal. So stop saying, hey, I need to not do a script. Okay, call it a guide. Call it whatever you want. But if I asked you right now, actually the price is too much, what can you do for me? You go into your head and pull out that script that you use and you say the same thing every time because that's what you memorize. It could only work 5% of the time, but you're still going to get it. But you're going to sit across from me and tell me, you know what, it doesn't make sense for me to learn your way. I go, oh, mine works 25% of the time. Why wouldn't you steal it? Why wouldn't you use it?
Right.
But ego.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is I have people call me all the time and then they go, I want, low cost, lowest rate. I'm like, that's funny because most people call me wanting the highest rate and the most cost I could ever do for them. Right. And they laugh about it and we move on with the conversation. Yep. Never address it other than that, because if you address price, you've already lost.
Yeah. So. I had somebody call and go, I need the best interest rate possible. I need that. And I'm like, absolutely. Of course you do. It wouldn't make sense for you to ask for the highest one. Absolutely. Set the appointment, comes in, makes the purchase. As she's leaving, I'm like, did you get the good rate? You were excited about it? And she's like, oh yeah. And I said, what rates were you comparing? And she goes, oh, I wasn't. It's just, I know from being a kid, my dad always told me, you better ask for the best rate. She didn't even do homework to know what the best rate was. Right. She just knew she was told to ask for this. And, you're going to run around trying to give her a whole dissertation about rates.
Right.
It's like,
What it takes 26 different things to adjust what your fight, what the rate's going to be and all that. Why waste the time with it? That's not what it's about. They just want to address it and move on. It's
correct.
not, that's not why they're there. You need to educate them on the other stuff. So you were saying that about how to create the scripts and everything, because I saw where Brian put in about Chat GPT, right? Well, you can utilize it to a certain point, but it doesn't mean it's going to know everything that you need to be done with the process, right? Because you say how you figure it out.
It's a good starting point if you don't know how to come up with something. But again, I mean, it's not difficult. I look at it and go, okay, so it's the energetic greeting. Okay, so no matter what, you have to have an energy that's attractive to your prospect, face to face, right? Email, video, stuff like that, over the phone. So, but you don't know who they are until you do. So I answer over the top, come back and mention, and then I put myself down to match them. So I could use Chat GPT, pull it up, get a baseline structure, and then put in the the intricacies that come in. But I think the scripts need to be made by the top performers. They need to sit back and say, I don't want the guy who's going, I know what to do. I've never done it, but I know what to do. So when I went into the moving company, I was like, look, give me access to your phone archives because I need to know what you're getting hit with. I need to know what is the reality for the people on the phones today. And I need to know, what are we getting on our emails? So I literally sat down, went through everything and went, same thing as everybody else, right? And I proposed a script within 2 weeks. The guy was like, this will never work. I worked with them for a year. And by the time we got to the end of the year, he goes, this is fantastic. The scripting, the way it goes through, blah, blah, blah. And then I sent him the first email that I had the script on and go, yeah, it just took me pushing you all the way through. But right now, all your people are killing it. All of your people sound good. And they're following the script that I said we should build in the beginning. And he was like, yeah, but he didn't trust me on, you don't know my industry as well. You just know sales. So,
yeah, I mean, is it really that much difference in different industries? I mean, it's a product, how you serve or service, and certain things that they might hit differently. But usually, isn't there like 3 things they worry about? Price. What are the? Isn't there like a standard thing that people say? There's only a few things that they worry about.
Only a few things. Again, it's the terms on what it is. There, because most people are going to be financing something.
Right.
So it's what does it meet my needs? Does it meet my budget? Right? And do I like you? Okay, is what it is. And the profitability gets lower if they don't like you, but you're the only one that has what they need. And so, but that's legit what you're facing is those 3 things.
Right.
And so
I think it's only been 27 minutes, but we've been covering a lot of stuff on scripts. And I think we finally hit it to where maybe some people, I mean, a lot of people that's been on here are like, scripts are amazing. They help me, they're guides and all. And you're right. And when you need them, but consistency, to get consistent on something, you need to have a script so that you're consistent with your sales day in and day out. Correct?
Right. And this whole time I've been reading from a script.
Yeah. Those are points you want to come across.
Right. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's you want to make sure you cover certain things. I mean, in my industry, if I run into many times where another loan officer. See, one of the biggest things is every loan officer doesn't think he's a salesperson. Every real estate agent doesn't think they're a salesperson. And in reality, you are in sales. Yes, you might just sometimes fall into a sale and it doesn't matter. But as a loan officer, there's many times they don't explain certain things like closing costs right or this. I don't have that problem because of my script, which is my guide, to make sure I cover everything. And I wrote my book that, for Ted, regarding, that's a joke from a while back. When
that's an inside joke from
financial freedom, building personal wealth through home ownership. I wrote the book the way I sell. You follow me? I talked about credit, which is first I talked about the biggest mistake, which is not acting. And then I talked about credit and then income and then and I went through the same way I do my actual guide, as we call it, through that process. And that's what it is. So it works exactly the same way. So by the end, you're like, I want to buy.
Yeah. When I go in with clients and I'll go, give me the next sales call. Right. And a lot of them will look at me and they'll go, really? Every trainer we've had has never done the actual job in front of us. And I was like, no, give me the next one. I pick it up and I'm on the script. right? And I'm
Right.
on it and I'm doing it. And they're like, well, it sounds different when you do it. I'm like, you know why? I have confidence in it and I have the tone and inflection where it's supposed to be. And legit, I'm not reading. I'm like, I have it in front of me as that safety net, right?
Right.
So that in case I get distracted, but yeah, I look and I'm like, no, I know what it is. And I'm like, and then when they give you an objection, oh, I've already practiced those. Those are over here. And it's built in to stop them from doing it. And again, it's a fun game, but you need the script. It matters.
Yeah. Don't want to be Glenn Ross. I used to be a salesman. Yeah.
But that was a tough racket. Yeah. Exactly. You see this watch? Yeah.
That's right. I drove here in anyway, let's move on.
You drove in a Hyundai, I got an $80,000
That's
BMW.
right.
Yes, I know that one. Now I will tell you there's a safer one to play for people, right? And
put that coffee down.
Alec Baldwin did it on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Cobbling. Always be cobbling.
Yes. And then he messed up. It was so great.
Yeah, it was great. Always be cobbling.
Yeah.
But,
so perfect.
But that's so true about the ABC. I don't care how bad that movie was, but that was true sales back in the day. I worked for a guy like that when I first came in this industry almost 30 years ago. And it was like, that's how it was. We're not that way now. We're so much better. But it was a high pressure thing to get people to do sales. Well, now it's not so high pressure, and we have better scripts. We understand the process better. We understand we're educated, so we understand how people react by knowing the different types of how people are. Right. What else do we need to cover before we go today, Joe? Since you do this day in and day out, I just do sales. I don't train people.
Oh yeah, but again, it takes the role play, which is what most people get embarrassed by, which is why a lot of your older sales professionals will tell you, I don't want the script, because they don't want to do a role play scenario. They don't want to do it. And to me, the answer is, if you can say it better than me, great. If your numbers that you put up are better than mine, then let me listen to you and see what I can steal from you. Okay. I'll modify the script to make it, better if it comes up. But understanding the script is going to give you the consistency that winging it will not, because winging it is dependent upon how you feel at the time you're winging it. And so again, if I pick up the phone and I'm in a bad mood, if I can just autopilot run through the scripting, then I'm going to get a consistent result. If I'm not, and I'm just going to be like, yeah, no, that's a stupid question. Right. And be like, whoops, did what? What did you just tell the guy? Yeah. I had one guy turn on while I'm sitting there looking at it, and he turns on and he goes, how do you want me to get you that? I can't just pull that out of my, what? and I turned around. I'm like, did you just say that to a client, a prospect? What are you doing? And he was like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, get off the phone. Okay, that's not what we're doing. You don't have that much rapport.
Right. Yeah. Down the road, maybe with that, you'll have rapport like that. But yeah, I would. We did one of the first call centers back in the day before there was call centers, right? And we would train our people, and it's a smaller thing during the 90s when we were doing all these refinances. And I set scripts, I set everything, and I set the software up to do the same way so they could just walk it through there. Then they would come in my office and just listen to me, because I did it. I learned how to do it very well and hit certain things. I'm like, just say exactly what I say. You can change it a little bit to match you, but overall you want to say exactly what I'm saying, which is part of the script. And we were very successful at it.
Absolutely. I had one where I created a script, put it in. The manager said, okay, do you guys have a way to monitor us to see what our team is doing? I said, yeah, it costs this much a month, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, great, put it in. And I said, what key things do you want us to look at? She goes, the script. She goes, put the script in. And she's like, I want to know when they deviate from the script. And I was like, okay. And so we would spot check calls. We'd grab it and send it to them. And then she'd call them in and she'd look and go, okay, so how long have you been doing this? Because you seem to think in listening to this phone call with you, you seem to think you know more than the guy who made the script, the one that did the training, the one that did whatever. They did a 300% improvement in the department they were in, simply because no one was allowed to deviate. No one was allowed to add the flair of their own opinion and thought, they got in and just went boom, boom, boom. And once they got to the point of, wow, this is easy, I'm like, okay, change what you want to change. Now go ahead. I know you know it. And their answer was, why would I change it? It's working.
Right.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. If he ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for filling in today as a guest host and the actual Joker. Really appreciate it.
Yes. The Joker works for me.
And if you don't know this, again, this is Aces53. I want to thank everybody for watching and all the comments. I appreciate it. I'm sure they were all here because of you, Joe, today. So we're definitely going to have you back. We do Aces53 on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. And if you like what we do here, just subscribe and share it out. And again, Joe, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.